Hi guys, my name is Grillo Adibi and I work with the marketing team at Cowrywise. Over time, one of the questions we have gotten on Google and personally have been how do I create a budget and how do I make the most of my finances? And what we have done now is to create a workbook or worksheet that helps you make the most of your money and helps you create a budget in a simple and easy way. I'm going to run you through the Excel sheet that tells you and guides you how to use this budget to make the most of your money. Let's dive right in. So once you get to the sheet, you're going to see an Excel sheet, the Cowrywise budget workbook. To the right-hand side, you're going to see a QR code. In the event that you have access to this workbook or this document and you haven't created the plan or you're not a Cowrywise user, you can easily scan the QR code on the right-hand side of the blue banner. And once you do that, it will take you to either the Google Play Store or the App Store to download the Cowrywise app. Once you do that, you just need to give us your email, your first name, your BVN, and a couple of details to create an account and start saving with us. So let's dive right into the budget. The top side, you'll see a set of instructions on how to make the most of this worksheet, right? It says the workbook is a beginner's guide. So if you don't, for example, from a personal perspective, have a very complex budgeting document and you're just really starting out on your financial journey, you probably just maybe got your first paycheck and you want to be able to figure out the best way to spend it, this worksheet is for you, right? So it's a beginner's guide on creating a budget to guide your spending and saving behaviors. If you have the document, depending on how you got it, you might want to duplicate this worksheet, right? So that no one has access to this document. You can see on the left-hand side, there are two columns on the left and the right-hand side, labeled green and in blue colors. What we have on the blue side, on the right-hand side, is your monthly budgeting allocation. From a finance perspective, there's a concept called the 50, 30, and 20 rule. This rule of thumb basically guides users or customers on how best to make the most of their income. In this context, it has broken 50, 30, 20 into how you break your money down from a savings perspective. 50% should cover your needs, 30% should cover your wants, and 20% should cover your savings and investments. And that is the benchmark I've used to create this guide. So I'm going to run through the nitty-gritty of how to use this workbook. But I'll tell you a story first about a certain someone I know. Damola is a good friend of mine. He's a videographer. He does pictures. And he just rented a nice apartment in Ogudu GRA. So we are going to assume that this is Damola's workbook for his budgeting, which will most likely make it easier for you to understand and grasp, right? So from this table, we have a couple of rows and some columns that you really need to take particular note of. On the left-hand side, we have a set of columns broken down into monthly income, expenses, and in this case, expenses are broken down into needs, wants, and savings and investing. And that's basically because of the 50, 30, 20 rule of thumb when it comes to budgeting. What it states is that when you have your income, when you make any amount of money on a monthly basis, you need to break that down into 50, 30, 20. 50 should cover your needs. Needs in this case are things that you definitely can't do without. You obviously have to save for your rent, you want to save for a car, you have utilities you need to pay, NEPA bills, phone bills, subscription bills, those need to be paid. So they are categorized as needs. 30% should cover your wants. In this case, wants are things that are not life or death, but things you just love to enjoy. They are good to have, right? In this context, wants would be you want to subscribe to Netflix or Amazon, you want to get tickets to a game, you want to treat yourself to some fine dining, or you want to go to a restaurant with your fiance or fiancé. Those things will be categorized as wants. Then the last category, which would take 20% of your income, should be your savings and investments. And again, the 50, 30, 20 as a rule of thumb is not sacrosanct, it's not set in stone. You can move things around depending on your financial situation. So for example, if you earn a bit more, you might decide you want to save substantially more or you want to invest more in stocks or mutual funds. So in that case, you have the liberty to move things around. So let's say you want to make it 40, 30, 30, for example. That is basically depending on you and your financial situation. So let's get back to this table. So like I said, this table is broken down into income and expenses broken down into needs, wants, and savings and investing, or in some cases, debt repayments. On the right-hand side, there are two columns that you need to take account of. The first is the budgetary allocation, and this is automatically broken down based on whatever you put as your income on a monthly basis. So Damola's monthly income is 1.7 million. And based on the 50-20% rule, which is what you can see on this column, it's automatically broken down depending on what you input as your total income for a particular month. So in this case, because Damola has inputted 1.7 million, this has been automatically broken down into 850 for needs, 510 for wants, and 340,000 for savings and investment. So just to demonstrate, if I change this figure from 500,000 to 800,000, for example, it changes to 2 million as his monthly income automatically, which automatically also updates the recommendation. So what this recommendation says, based on the 50-30-20% rule, is that Damola should spend at least 1 million on his needs, 600,000 on his wants, and 400,000 on savings and investment. Again, it's not set in stone. You can change it as you see fit. Then what we have at the top of the column as his monthly spend is a breakdown of the figures he has imputed on the left-hand side. So depending on what you put in as your expenses in terms of your needs, your wants, and your savings and investment, that will automatically be updated on this table here, which breaks down his monthly budgets, right? So which is why, because of the figures he has put here, we have needs as 500,000, wants at 320,000, and savings and investment at 35,000. So like I mentioned, these are not set in stone. I can make changes to this as you see fit. But expenses, like I said, you have needs that cover most likely things like rent, utilities, transportation, personal grooming, which obviously have to be paid for. That should account for your expenses from a needs perspective. From a wants, like I said, like I mentioned, things like self-love, fine dining, Owambe's, that will form the better part of the cost that will be put in this column. Then the last and most critical part is really the savings, investments, and debt repayments. In this case, Damola is very big on savings and investments simply because he understands that the amount of money he puts on a monthly basis compounds over time. So which is why in this case, he's saving heavily in an emergency fund, a savings plan, but also he does a lot of investments, mutual stocks, mutual funds as well, right? So what we have done here is to also make it easier for you to be able to create any of these plans in the first place, or to be able to get more information and more context. So if you click any of these links, for example, it will take you to a blog post about emergency funds, another blog post about savings, and another about investment. And this is particularly for people who have not started saving in any of these categories. So if you get to any of these sections, you just need to input the figure that you are looking to save for emergencies, for saving, investment, retirement, or other forms of debt. Like I mentioned, you can change this based on how you see fit and depending on your financial situation. But based on this, you need to input the figures at this section, and then you can see the total amounts costed here. So by the end of the day, once you have finished filling this sheet, you have a fairly good idea of how much you're making on a monthly basis, how much you should spend on your needs monthly, how much you spend on wants, and how much you should spend on savings and investments on a monthly basis. The purpose of this budget is to act as a guide for you to be able to help you control your spending, your investing, and how much you allocate on a monthly basis. So I hope this guide helps. Use it as you see fit, make changes as you see fit, and don't forget to use the 50-30-20% rule as a budgetary guide. Okay, and if at the end of this demonstration and this short course on how to make the most of this budgeting workbook, if you have not signed up yet, all you have to do, go to the QR code, scan the QR code, fill in your details, sign up, and start your financial journey right away.